Alright, so I've already finished most of today's chores, but I need to get rid of this mustache. I decided to intentionally not get a haircut or trim my beard because of a specific video idea that I intend on doing, but I can't deal with the mustache any longer. As you can see in this footage here from this morning, I am brushing my teeth and the toothpaste is just all up in the mustache, and so it takes a lot more water to rinse all that out, and then it takes a lot more paper towels to dry it all out, and then my lips get chapped, and it's just all around an awful time. So I'm going to try to trim the mustache today. I do not have very much experience with this though, surprisingly. Generally, what I did for years, I never really did much wet shaving. What I always did is I just took this machine here with no guard and it was just and call it good. That was my shaving. And then when the beard started filling in a little bit, then I started experimenting with different ways of trimming it. But I was kind of random with it. I didn't keep track of what I did each time and how to make it look different ways. And especially if I go a long time without doing anything with it, where I just let it grow, then I kind of forget what I've done before. So I've got that. I also have this, which these are great. This one in particular is awful. It's really dull. So I'm gonna attempt to trim the mustache today because I just cannot deal with the way it is. So here we go with no guard, and oh right, I have am I filming? No second takes on this video. I also have this tiny little brush. Also the battery doesn't last very long on this either, so. So a trick that I learned is that when you're brushing out the mustache first, you want to keep a neutral face. You don't want to like stretch your face in any direction. Already long enough to get tangled knots. Yeah, you want to keep as neutral of a face as possible because then you're going to like trim how your face is naturally going to be. Rather than trimming it to look good when you're smiling and then it's going to look bad when you have a neutral face, you trim it to look good when you have a neutral face and then it'll just kind of look decent all the time, I guess. That's by far the best tip I've ever had with this. Well, I guess I never charged this from last time I used it. So that sucks, which means I'm going to have to use this. Oh boy. And I don't have time to wait for this to charge. I could try using my big one that I use for my head. You know, for the sake of the video, let's bust that out. I've never tried to use this on my mustache, so this will be interesting. That works surprisingly well. What? Why did that work so well? That was amazing. Now obviously this looks a little bit ridiculous because this is still long and this is short. I have to kind of like blend or fade it together. That's the tricky part. I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put my like part line, where it's gonna go from short to longer, because I don't wanna lose the connection between the mustache and the beard. I think I'm gonna try for this again because that worked like way too well. Trimming your mustache is not really something that can be taught. It's 100% just experimenting and practice. I'm curious if I can get just a little bit of charge out of this. I did a little bit. This is like surprisingly actually kind of still working. Basically I see the goal is just to keep it out of my mouth, but having it also still looking good. And you don't want to trim too much. And then you find little tricks of like how to make it look more naturally grown, as if you haven't trimmed it and it's just grown out this way. Like trimming up a little bit in the middle, just a tiny bit. It's so easy to overdo like all of these little details. And of course, along the edges here, I get all these stragglers that just kind of stick out everywhere, and that becomes a difficult thing to figure out, like where do I draw the line between the nice clean edge here to keep my mouth free and where it just begins to blend into the chaos of the beard, because I'm not trimming the beard right now. Like I said, I'm saving that for a different video idea in the future. So subscribe if you haven't already to stay tuned for that. You know, this is the point where I feel like I started to go a bit too far. I've trimmed too much. Yeah, because this connection is getting thin. Now I'm just going to try to make the other side match and then call it good. I don't know, I guess that's good enough. How's that look? Normally I have my parents or a friend kind of check it out, tell me how I did. I've also discovered through the years of making mistakes with trimming my mustache and my beard that the vast majority of the general public are pretty forgiving. Like, they just don't notice at all. Yeah, this is way too thin. I goofed up bad there. And then this is like, my beard is never even anyway. The right side is always thicker than the left side. And also, confession time, I have a bald spot under here. I don't know if you can see it. So leaving the front long kind of covers that up, and no one ever notices that either. Like, these are just so straggly. I don't know, I guess that looks all right. Now, the other final trick that I discovered is cleaning up your edges. So like under here, now you don't want to go like along the jawline like this and cut all this out, because then you lose the bulk of your beard. The guys that have just this little strip on the front of their chin look ridiculous. You need to leave all of this under here, but there's a different line where your like under jaw connects with the neck, and then this stuff can go. That's kind of like getting rid of this stuff on the back of your neck, like just to clean up the bottom edge there. You can clean up your bottom edge here, but just make sure make sure you're like going about here-ish where your neck and your beard connect, and getting rid of like this stuff that's on the neck, not getting rid of any of this stuff. I've seen people do that all the time, where they go along the jawline and they get rid of all the bulk of their beard. And then they look ridiculous. Ooh, that does not cut well with a low battery. Let me just use this. Now, dealing with this, there's a little trick with that too. If you swallow and then just hold like mid-swallow, you can see it pulls it up. I'm gonna do that here, so you can watch it pull it up. Ready? I'm gonna do it again and keep my finger on it. And then I just hold, I can't talk like that, but I just hold it up there, and then I have a nice flat surface because the bump is moved. Ah, this thing is dead. And then you can do the opposite, where you just like push it down. Can you see? Yeah, I can do that, where I just push it down, and then I can get the other side. Which, pushing it down is so much easier than pulling it up and holding it up there. I can hold it down easy. This is the first time I've ever used this on my beard, and I think this gets a little bit closer, but it's working surprisingly well. And normally I would do a lot more. If I was trimming up the beard, I would like comb it down and try to like flatten it out and shape it and whatever, but I'm gonna leave it. Also, my phone is ringing in the background. Sorry, I'm not gonna answer it right now. Well, yeah, fine, let's see who it is. Hey, I gotta call you back. Alright, so that's looking much better down there. And then the other little trick that, as far as I'm aware, most people aren't aware of, that I am glad I've learned, is cleaning up the top edge. And again, it's the same thing as everything else I've said today, where you have to be very gentle with it. It's very easy to go too far. Let's hope that the camera can focus. There are all these really tiny, come on, focus please, really tiny little white hairs. Come on, no, not on my nose, on my cheek. Little stragglers up here. So yeah, there's all these little tiny straggler hairs that just kind of make it look messy. And so I'll clean those up. And like way up here towards my eye, like I said, it's just like little tiny white hairs that you don't even see, but getting rid of them oddly does kind of contribute to a cleaner look. And then the tricky part, trying to get the other side to be symmetrical, but I can try to show you before and after. There's the before, there's the after. Before, after. Honestly, this doesn't do that much. It's very much a detail, but this bottom side, cleaning that up makes a big difference. But yeah, it's very important to be very careful about where you're putting your line, because you do not want to cut into the beard and then end up with just this without any of this on the front of your chin, and end up with just the stuff underneath, that looks bad. Well, I mean, it doesn't look bad, it's just not the look I want. It's more like an Amish look. Alright. A little bit more detail work. It's a little bit better, I guess. And I could clarify as well, one of the reasons I say that it's pretty much impossible to teach someone to trim their mustache and that it has to be all trial and error and figure out for yourself is because everyone's facial hair is so different. There are different techniques for different styles, and different styles that will or will not work based on the way that yours grows. The thickness, the length, the location, the pattern, the direction. For example, my beard always just goes off this way, so I'm like always brushing it this way to kind of counteract it and make it look even down the middle. Always going to be one hair that you've missed. No matter how much time you spend on this, there will always be one more that's sticking out further than the rest. You will never get it perfect. So don't try. And then I can go absolute madman. The other goal is some of these top stragglers kind of go up in my nose and tickle my nose, but also the hairs growing from within the nose itself. So, I pluck some nose hairs, just the ones that are sticking out. You don't want to pluck a ton of nose hairs because that is part of your body's natural filtering system. Your mustache is your body's mask. Now, of course, our fabric masks that we can produce are much more efficient than a mustache would be. The same way that multiple jackets that you can put on more or take off as needed is more efficient than having built-in fur. That's actually something pretty interesting that I noticed is, must have been like 7 years ago now at this point, 6, 7 years ago. I got pneumonia. My facial hair didn't grow very much back then. I was just starting to get a little bit of a mustache and like just this bit, but none of this was here. And then I got pneumonia, and after I recovered from it, suddenly the mustache just grew like crazy, and then it took a couple years for the beard to catch up. But that was fascinating, that the body was like, we need this filtering system so that we don't get pneumonia again. At least that's what I think happened. It doesn't hurt that bad, it's just uncomfortable. Also, it makes the nose water. No, it makes the eyes water. It's like a knee-jerk type reaction. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not crying tears. Like, try it yourself, honestly. There's absolutely no way that you can pluck nose hairs and not water your eyes. Alright, I think that's good enough on the nose for today. That's enough torture for today. One other thing that I do is I get a bit of a unibrow, so I'll pluck those, which doesn't hurt nearly as bad because I'm kind of somewhat used to it by now. But I learned the hard way that you do not want to use something like this to like trim these, because then when you trim them, it's leaving like a hard flat edge on the end of the hair, and so when it grows back, it looks a lot rougher. Is the only way I know how to explain it. Versus when you pluck them, whatever grows back will be a fresh hair with a nice fresh pointy tip. And those tiny, I guess microscopic details are noticeable. I've never tried waxing my unibrow, which it doesn't grow that bad. It's not really a unibrow, it's just like there's just a little bit more hair there than there should be. Borderline unibrow territory versus when I do this, then you get a nice clean two-brow look. Why can't I get that one? Where are you? Come on. I see it. Why can't I grab it? This is not the greatest tweezers on earth. I can tell you that much. I missed. Come on. Doing this is honestly just like more difficult than painful because I just don't have a great tweezers. I thought this was a pretty great tweezers when I first got it. But I guess it's not anymore. It must have warped or something. And no, I'm not like collecting the hairs in my hand. I'm just like wiping them off so I get a nice flat surface to be able to grab the next one better. Sure, that's good enough. So there we go. Basic little maintenance cleanup for the sake of my sanity. Even though I liked the look of it better before, I can't stand having the mustache in my mouth and in my food, and in my drinks and just in everything, and getting everything in it, getting toothpaste in it, and I try to spit the toothpaste out and then the spit gets in it, and it's awful. Alright, so that's it for today. The haircut video will be a different day. The beard trim video will be a different video. The other hairs. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and or got some sort of helpful info about how to trim your mustache. As I have basically shared with you the most helpful tips that I've ever received. Trim the like button. Like if this was helpful to you, leave me a comment down below. Let me know which parts of it were helpful, or maybe something that I'm doing wrong that you know that I could do better. Share this video with anyone else who may find this useful and or interesting, and take care.